We're going to continue to have more people join the call, but we want to get started because it is 1 o'clock. And just wanted to give a quick intro of what this actual call is all about, and then we'll introduce all the coaches from the different offices. So we were originally going to have a special all Ben Kinney brokerage group coaching session with all the coaches, and sometimes we'll have an occasional event like that. Via had actually brought up the idea of actually opening this particular one up to not just coaching, but also any newer agents in all the offices as well, which we thought was a great idea, and especially considering the times. So what that did is because we're going to have a lot more people than we typically would, it caused us to change this into a webinar format. So instead of being just an exchange with all the participants, this will be more of a roundtable with the coaches, and then we'll have the chat box, which is actually kind of going crazy right now. So thank you for everybody chiming in. We'll have the chat box and the Q&A open for everybody that wants to ask questions along the way as well. So we'll be introducing some topics, having a roundtable discussion with the coaches on those topics. We'll be watching the chat and Q&A feed to see if we can grab your questions as well and answer your questions at the same time. So really what we're looking to do here with this is anybody who's looking at getting their business ramped up now. And what that means to me is someone, you could have been in the business for a day or 6 months, but you don't have a book of business. You don't have past clients necessarily, or maybe you only have one past client. You're really looking at ramping up your business now and wondering, what do I need to know and what do I need to do to move things forward now in my business in the times that we're in? So let's go ahead and this is one part that I actually didn't totally think through, is the order to have people do intros. So how about if I'll start by introducing myself, and then I'll call out some names and let each coach introduce themselves. Many of you already know, some of these coaches as well. So I'm David Monroe. I'm a productivity growth coach at the Kirkland office, and also the head of the coaching for the Ben Kinney Brokerage's productivity coaching program. We started the Kirkland program about 5.5 years ago, and so we've actually grown into a fairly large program at this point in Kirkland. So let's jump over to Oliver next. Quick intro.
Sure. Hey everybody, my name is Oliver. I'm with the Keller Williams East Side Kirkland office. I've been in the business now with Keller Williams Kirkland for over 12 years. I was also part of in the beginning when they started the coaching program, and I'm also one of the launch coaches here at the Kirkland East Side office.
Awesome. And by the way, there's no particular order of me doing this other than the way the tiles are showing up on my screen. So next, how about Britt?
Hi, I'm Britt. I'm the productivity launch coach at Everett office, and I hope all my guys are out there. Awesome. I've been in real estate 5 years, so yeah.
Awesome. Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison Lundy. I'm with KW Bellingham. I'm the productivity coach there, and I've been in real estate for a little over 7 years. And before that, I was a teacher.
Awesome. Jeanette?
I'm Jeanette Harple from the Tacoma office, the productivity coach. Been in real estate for 15 years. My husband and I, well, he's the team leader in Tacoma, but I also have a team in Oregon and Nevada. So we've sold probably about 2,200 houses personally, plus what our team has done as production. So
awesome. And Joe?
Hey, Joe Slaughter down in Olympia. I'm excited just because we're launching the whole productivity program in our new Ben Kinney office down here in Olympia, Lacey area. So it's real fun to be a part of this and to get it up and running and get it launched.
Awesome. And Shay.
I'm Shay. I am the productivity coach for downtown West Seattle and North Seattle. I am licensed in 3 states and I've been in the business 26 years.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, you have to, if you get an email from Shay, you end up having to upgrade your data plan on your phone to get her signature across, because she's so many places, so many things. and Todd.
I'm Todd with the Marysville branch. I've been in real estate for about 10 years and working with David and Trish to figure out how I fit into the system. So
awesome.
Productivity system. So.
And the one person that you don't see here too is Trish, who's our leadership coach at our Crooklyn office, and also my wife. She will, in a little while, she's actually on her way back, and so in a little while you might see, if you see someone come and sit next to me, it's okay from a perspective of social distancing because we've been fairly close for a while. All right, so start things off. And if you see me looking to the side from time to time, I'm looking at the webinar chat. There's a lot of stuff. One thing I wanted to call out is on one of the chat questions is, and I think this is good right at the beginning to address too, is some people were asking, or someone asked, how the productivity coaching program is different than Ben's partnership with Debbie DeGroat and Forward Coaching. The BKCO productivity coaching program within the Ben Kinney brokerages is something that's completely separate, and for the most part is designed for newer agents. And so the way we look at it is, Forward Coaching is a great coaching program. We do recommend Forward Coaching as a coaching program for agents. It's also has a financial structure that could be cost prohibitive for newer agents that are looking at getting in the business and keeping their expenses down. And so while there's nothing wrong with a new agent going and setting up with Forward Coaching, typically what we find is the initial path is a newer agent will come in, start with productivity coaching, and then at some point, as they move up in the business, they may choose to move over to Forward Coaching to continue their coaching from there. So it becomes another option at that point. I don't want to pigeonhole that too much, but what we typically find is Forward Coaching is typically a better fit for agents that already have cash flow coming in from their business. Now, it doesn't mean that that's the only thing, but typically that's what we find. So productivity coaching program, because of the compensation structure that works on a split, that's part of the reason that is typically more applicable toward newer agents, because it doesn't typically require upfront cash, to do. So, okay. So to start this off, and feel free to ask questions in the Q&A or the chat, and we'll do our best during the conversation to address those. The coaches are just going to chime in. This is just like a roundtable format, and the coaches will feel free to chime in as they would like. But I'm going to start this off with looking at the economic impact of what we're dealing with. So this is kind of to set the stage with where we're going here. So if we look at the instant economic impact of the market, how that's impacting people financially, what the future economic impact might be for the short term, we don't have all the answers, but we also look at new opportunities that this will create as well. So for example, we know that, or I shouldn't say we know, I'll say we believe that this change in the market that we're seeing right now may impact some agents to a point where they'll choose to leave the business. Now, we don't believe that needs to happen that way, but we believe that there's going to be some impact there. We know there's going to be some impact, we just don't know how much, on buyers, some impact on sellers. It might create other opportunities in terms of leveling the playing field, because when everything changes, then those who have been doing things one way for a long time may end up having to change. And this is where a new agent coming into the business, would be at more of an equal playing field, in my opinion. If for any of the coaches that had been in the business during the downturn specifically, was there anything that you were seeing, or what were you seeing, or what are you seeing now that is either similar or different as far as distinguishing this time to the recession back in 2008 to 2012?
Well, when I started, it was back in 2008, and I remember talking to a lot of my agents that were friends that were really busy in the market prior to, and a lot of them were jumping ship, and they're all saying, you know what, the market's crashing, I'm getting out of real estate, it's a bad idea to get into real estate, what are you doing? And my mindset back then was like, okay, well, if I'm seeing all these agents jumping off ship now, and if I can build my business and figure out how I can survive and strive during a down market, I could do anything. And that was my mindset back then. So I started actually watching the agents fall off, and I've noticed that some of the agents that do fall off, they're passing on some of their business over to us newer agents that are willing to do the work, that are willing to go out and preview properties and don't have that limited mindset. So I'm seeing that here now, where I've actually talked to a few of my friends that are agents that they're like, you know what, I can't do this. I'm taking another job, and I don't really want to work on my real estate business because I don't want to be out there. And it's like, I need somebody to refer my business to. So that was one of what I've been noticing the last week and a half. I had three agents that did that, and kind of started saying, you know what, if we get anything, is it okay if we work together and I just refer this business to you?
I've been getting that too.
Yeah.
I think everybody should be ramping up right now. The difference between 2008 or 2006 to 2011, I guess, and now is, number one, we have technology, more so than we ever did before. So we didn't have FaceTime back in 2006, 7, 8, 9, 10, until 2010. Now we have all the video conferencing, and the whole country's together at one time. It's not going up the coast. Everybody at the same time basically got halted within a week or two of each other. So now is an opportunity to, number one, talk to everybody, because we're all in the same boat.
Mm-hmm.
But now people can actually sell properties, or buyers can actually buy properties that they were getting 40 offers on one house before. So it's an opportunity for a lot of different people to jump in the market right now.
Yeah.
The difference between coming from scarcity and coming from that survive to thrive mentality.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I did really well in the last downturn because I pivoted, right? So that gave me the ability to do really well instead of being paralyzed by the fear.
Can I ask you, Shay, could you define, because we got new agents on here, when you say pivot, what do you mean?
So I switched in probably 2009, my focus, and I stepped out of traditional, as we call it, and I focused on REO, and I specialized in foreclosures for probably, 10 years, until I moved to Portland 4 years ago, and then Seattle. So, I kind of pivoted with the market crash and saw an opportunity and jumped on that opportunity rather than letting scarcity, win me over and then going and getting a job or.
Right. No, I totally understand. That's really great, because you saw opportunity in other people's losses. right? But you didn't let that stop. Some people get that mindset, you know?
I mean, you can say it that way, sure.
Well, I don't mean it to sound negative at all, but there are going to be, I know it's kind of morbid, but some people are going to pass away and there's going to be a lot of estate sales out there. So we may have more houses on the market. So that's kind of my dark side, I guess, but it's like, it is tragic and sad, but nothing I had anything to do with. But that doesn't mean I can't use that opportunity and seize it when I see it.
Yeah, and what we're going to be seeing is we're definitely going to see a shift in the market. Now a lot of people have this idea of what a shift means. Now, a shift can mean any change in the market. It doesn't necessarily, it can shift to go slower, it can shift to go faster. But we're going to see some changes happen in the market, and we're going to see some changes in how we do business. As we go through the stay-at-home order, what we're going to learn some new business practices that are going to stick even after the stay-at-home order is lifted. We're going to get more used to technology and being very fluid on the technology side and doing things remotely. And to an extent, some of that may stick. And we also know too, this is where newer agents have a distinct advantage, is by human nature, we as human beings don't like to change. And this might be the time too, if there's enough change that happens, you're going to see some of the old timers start to step out of the business and start to retire, for example, too. Sure. The ones that have a lot of success and could still have continued success even through this, but they might say, you know what, this is that time I was waiting for, the big change that gives me a reason to step out right now. And then that business opens up, right? So we're going to see a little bit of that as well, in my opinion.
Oh, yeah.
So to shift over the conversation a little bit to where do we go after the business? So some people that are newer in the business, they might have been going out, some of you might have been going out and doing door knocking. Some of you might have been doing open houses. When a new agent comes into the business, we believe that for most new agents that were coming into the business, that their sphere of influence and open houses were the quickest way to their first transaction. So open houses has been something that has temporarily fallen off the table, right? At least for the time being. Now, we also want to remember is what we're going through right now is all temporary. And so everything that's off the table today will eventually be back on the table. But one thing that I wanted to do is to start on the lead generation conversation here is I'm going to share something here that, let me get the right thing here. Okay, let me actually do this. And then I'm going to, let me get to the next slide. There we go. Okay. Can everyone see this okay? Lead generation pyramid.
Mm-hmm.
So a while back, we did a training in our coaching program where we created what we call the lead generation hierarchy pyramid. And this is what we believe to be the most effective to least effective lead generation strategies. And we spent a full training session on this. So this is really going to be a super, super condensed version of that. But if we look at starting at the top 20% being the top of the lead generation pyramid as far as most effective, you will see there's some things that we can do and some things that we can't do. So right now, in person to our A+ list when asking for referrals, probably not right now, right? So we look at the next one down, phone calls to our A+ and A list when asking for referrals. So that's still the top of the pyramid. Is that still possible? Yeah, still possible, right? Look at clients, friends, family, acquaintances. Maybe we're not doing in person, we're doing phone calls there. So we're still at the top of the pyramid, another option. We look at inbound sign calls. Now this is where you got a listing, inbound sign calls from listing marketing and so on. Transactional leads. If you have a listing, that applies. If you don't, that doesn't necessarily apply. But you also have outbound target prospecting. You have calls expired and canceled, which I will caution against calling recent expireds and cancels, careful, because a lot of them just took that off the market because of what's going on. But we don't have door knocking necessarily right now as an option. We don't have open houses. And we also don't, the next one down, don't have door knocking with a purpose, but we have allied resources. We can be making phone calls to allied resources. We can be doing first-time homebuyer seminars, but not in person. We can be doing those virtually. Maybe we're not doing client events. But so you can see how even on the top half of the pyramid, there are a lot of lead generation strategies that are available. And if we were to take this and essentially cross out the things that may not apply, it might look like this. So probably the one that I would uncross out if I were to do this again is first-time home buyer seminars, because we can do those online. Client events that I mentioned are things that, well, probably wouldn't apply as much to new agents, but it's also, those are in-person type things as well. So essentially, if we were to, I'm going to stop share here so we can get back to the discussion. But if we were looking at lead generation strategies to do now, yes, we have fewer lead generation strategies, but how can you turn up the level of the lead generation that you do within those strategies?
I personally think if you're just calling all your friends and family, ask them who they think would be affected mostly in the housing industry by this shutdown. Are they in the restaurant business? Are they in what? I mean, there's a whole list of different businesses that have been affected and been laid off. If they know anybody in there that potentially could have a problem paying their mortgage or whatever, you probably need a list of those people as well. And you're coming from a side of gratitude, like, hey, I want to help somebody. Yeah. It's not about just having the business right now. This is for a long-term situation, because that person's name that they may give you that could have a problem could be 2 years down the road. If they halt paying your mortgage, they could stay in the house for a while. But in the meantime, if you actually come from a side of caring about them, they're going to call you back.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think head down, heart up. You should be absolutely calling every single person you know and asking them how they are, how their family is, and what you can do for them, right? I heard on a webinar earlier this morning, and I thought it was super powerful. Abe Shreve said, how you talk to your database today will determine who they talk to in 90 days.
Absolutely.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and also too, along those lines as well. Now we've talked about it, and you probably had it drilled into your mind right now that it's not calling to ask them who they know is looking to buy or sell the home, right? So we know it's about calling, check in on them. In my opinion, it's the best time to be calling our sphere of influence, because you don't have to think of a reason to call.
Nope.
You just call and ask them how they're doing. Hey, just wanted to check in with you. How are things going?
Mm-hmm.
How has this all impacted you? And along those lines, we've seen lots of resources come out. We've seen lots of role play examples come out as well through multiple different sources. One thing that I've noticed, even in some of the role plays that I've seen and some of the conversations, is one trap that I think is easy to fall into. Is we talk about a lot in coaching about asking open-ended questions. So it's all about asking open-ended questions and digging and digging and digging. But what we've also heard a little bit of is someone asking an open-ended question and essentially answering it with a closed-ended question by following up with a closed-ended question. So some examples, I even put actual examples of what I've actually heard. So someone says, well, how's all this impacting you? Was your job affected? Right, so what you did is you took a conversation and open-ended, and you just narrowed it down to their job. Was your job affected? No. End of discussion, right? Unless they choose to talk more. Similar one that I heard is, with everything being shut down, how's that working for you? Are you working from home? Similar type of question. You took an open-ended question and you turned it into a closed-ended one, and essentially gave a 50-50 answer for your open-ended question.
Right.
Another example is, how's your business? Is it going to be okay? Another yes or no. Now imagine if you stopped at the open-ended question and just let them talk. So that could really lead the conversation. And what we're starting what we're hearing from people that are having the conversations with open-ended questions is sometimes it's a conversation that just ends up being nothing more than how are things going? How can I be of service to you? Is there anything that you need? And it stops there. Other times the conversations circle back around. So for example, a new agent that's in the business, let's say you're so new that you haven't even reached out to let people know that you're in the business. You can still have the exact same call, and they might throw you a softball for you to introduce the fact that you're now with KW. So but allow them to do that, because if you're interested in what's going on with them, do you think people are going to ask back like, well, how has this actually impacted you?
For sure.
Right? And you get to talk about that too.
So it's interesting. I was just right before this morning, was showing a house and go and do all the social media or all the social protocols and elbow bumps and all of that. What was interesting, I asked at the end of our time, what would be most helpful for you that I did? And just left it. What's fascinating is I knew they were selling a house. It's up north of Seattle. I already have a referral partner, so don't say anything or don't request that. But it was fascinating. They're like, well, would you consider listing our home as well as helping us buy a home? And I was like, yeah, I think I could probably figure that out. You know, if you ask, I mean, if I have to, but it was just interesting, just letting them answer, letting them talk and seeing what they came up with. They came up with that, and I thought that's a good plan. I like it.
Yeah.
Another open-ended question that you can ask to help them elaborate and explain themselves more is like, tell me about that. So if they answer with like a short answer, like, how's your business going? Oh, it's doing, it's doing all right. Okay, well, tell me about that. And then it opens it up to another open-ended question, and it kind of forces them to explain themselves properly, which I used it even this morning, and that same answer came through, and we ended up having a 30-minute conversation just from that single question. And we found out a lot of information, and we're able to help him with some of his things that he's going through right now. So asking those open-ended questions and really digging deep and digging to that second or third level to see what's going on. There's a lot of people in general, they're so used to responding quickly and responding with like a single sentence saying, yeah, I'm doing great. And during these times, they haven't seen anybody personally in a long time. They're actually coped up in their house. So they want to talk to you, but their initial reaction, their habit is, oh, everything's doing good. When in actuality, they actually want to share it. They don't want to be talking to their spouse anymore. Good God, they can talk to somebody else now. Yeah, let's talk some more. So yeah, asking open-ended questions and digging deep. One of the things I found while doing this is educating yourself on what you can do to help. So before I made my calls, I know that a lot of my sphere is in the restaurant bar industry, and I knew that they don't have any jobs. I know that everybody probably didn't have any income sources, so I ended up looking up ways to help. So like I found out some ways to help find out how to defer like your car payment, how to talk to your banks, and maybe help them with defer or talk to them about maybe holding off on paying their credit cards. And by sharing this information, you're going to be that person of value, and you're going to be saving them maybe $3, $5, over a couple $1,000 just by having that conversation. I remember one conversation I had. I talked to one of my friends, and he ended up after our conversation saving his car payment, like 3 of his credit cards, and he was able to talk to his landlord, and he was able to save like almost $4,000 a month for the next 3 months by just having a conversation with us. So finding out what we can do and to help our friends, our family, and help guide them to the right path of saying, okay, well, Tell me what you need. Okay, you know what? I think I have a guy for that. Is it okay if I call you back and see if I can help you with that? And being that person of value, and especially as a new agent, you may not know everything about real estate right now, but if you can start off your real estate world by becoming a knowledge broker and knowing how you can connect people, people will remember you in 3, 6, 9 months, a year from now, remembering that, oh my gosh, you know, David saved me $5,000 during this time frame, but just by having that one conversation. We need to call David when we're purchasing a house. And being that
Right, as
person.
agents, we should be the most connected person in our community. We should be the
Absolutely.
one that everybody goes to. And maybe you don't have a resource for them, but I'm sure you know somebody who has a resource for them.
Exactly.
Well, I've been researching the IRS, how this, the $2 trillion bill is going to affect everybody. And basically, if you're a sole proprietor, if you're a hairdresser, if you're, you know, maybe not getting unemployment at a fair enough rate, how is that going to affect you long term? And if you can get the $600 per week with unemployment with the government, as well as whatever state, you know, I'm in 3 states, Nevada, Oregon and Washington, they're all affected differently. And so they're actually opening that up to all those people that are unemployed as well. So having that $600 per week plus their unemployment can help bridge the gap and pay some bills that are actually necessary. And the COBRA help too, that the government also is offering. So they're also extending that. So it's a pretty huge resource, and to be the person of value to your clients or your sphere or their friends as well.
Right. And understanding how to navigate that system, right? Both online and, if God forbid somebody needs paperwork.
Oh, I've been sending links for sure, because I know which industries are, like, you know, Oliver, you have the people in the restaurant business.
Right.
I have people in the spa business or whatever. They don't know what to do. They're all self-employed like we are as real estate agents, and real estate agents as well can get that unemployment. So people need to look into that.
Yeah, that's really good, because that is, no matter where you are in this business, this is where you can provide real value to somebody. It's not about you being the most knowledgeable person in real estate today. It's about being the one that they think of when they need to do something or know somebody that needs to do something real estate related. And this is how we did it back in the short sale days too, back when we were in the time period of 2008 through 11, is having all the information. Oh, here's where you go to for a loan modification. Here are the different programs that are available. Here's the HUD contact information. Here's all this stuff. Even though we were in the business to sell properties, we were giving them information on how to keep their house, to keep their home. But we just knew statistically that a certain percentage of these people that we were given these resources to help keep their home actually couldn't. And so the same thing would apply here, is that you want to be providing information to help people out, and they may decide at some point, they're like, oh, this is great, and this isn't quite enough. We're getting into too much of a bind right now. We're going to sell and start tapping into our equity to live off of for a little while, whatever reason it might be. Then they'll think of you. That's the bottom line. And so even looking at where's the future in this business. Now, I've always believed that the future is in listings. And it doesn't mean that we're going to end up that means we're going to have a pile of listings coming on the market. It means we do want to be focusing on listings, because at some point we'll have more listing inventory. And how do you go after those? It's being in front of your people. So if they or someone they know ends up being in a position where they either want to or need to list their home, they're thinking of you. So
I would, this is Todd. And Oliver, I love how sticky you are. I love how you're a resource for your people. And that's a big word that I'm constantly using, is resource. How can I be a resource for you? This all comes back to reaching out to talk to the people consistently over and over again. What can I do to help? And most people are not thinking real estate like we are. I mean, it's in our brain, it's in our thoughts all the time. And most people aren't thinking about it. They're going to jobs, they're going to, go out to dinner with their family, they're playing softball with the people from Boeing or whatever it is, but real estate's in our brain all the time. And so what we're doing, in my opinion, is right now is calling with empathy and making sure that we can follow up with a phone call with them in the future, and just building a big, huge, fat database of people that we are a resource for. And so it's just the same thing over and over again. It never changes. Pick up the phone, reach out to the people, provide empathy, be a great resource, and make sure that they know that you're going to follow up with them again in the future, because they're property owners and they're going to need some help at some point in time. And so we're just building BOBs. I call them BOBs, B-O-B, bricks of business for the future. And it might be 1 year, 2 year, 5 year, 10 year. I'm not getting out of real estate. So they'll need help at some point in time. And we place them above a transaction.
Right.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Well, also, one of the opportunities we have too is, we've talked about there are certain people in our database that we might reach out to once a month, once every 2 months. And generally we'll say, well, anybody in your database, you don't want to go more than 3 months without having an actual conversation with them, voice or in person, like phone call or in person. Well, even the rules on those have changed for now, but they've changed in our favor, which is really good. So if you called through your whole database 2 weeks ago, could you call your whole database again now?
Sure, why
Is it
not?
is it a different world than it was 2 weeks ago even? Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Two weeks ago feels like about 3 months ago. Time is passing a little more slowly. So I think it's okay to reach out a little more often.
Yep.
And again, like everybody said, the focus shouldn't really, when we call, focus shouldn't be on real estate. We're calling just to see how people are. We're coming from contribution, and we're trying to make connections for people. So that's a big area of focus. But yeah, you can call as often as you want, because time's passing like super slow.
Yeah.
And as Oliver said, they're happy to hear from you,
Crazy.
right? Because we're so isolated. I would like to, as I think Todd in Marysville, I think you said relationships over transaction, and the empathy about how can I help you versus can you help me. But we can't control if a prospect's going to pick up the phone or not, or if they're going to send us a referral or any of that. We don't control any of that. But what we can control is the effort that we put into it. And seeing as how we're all home, it's really easy to sit around in our jammies, not do our hair, not put on makeup, it's just easy to be comfortable, right? Like it's a weekend, but it's not. It's a work day. So if we create a schedule for ourselves, I love schedules. I love to do task lists. I'm one of those people that loves it. But even if you're not somebody who loves it, even if your list says get out of bed, brush teeth, go to the bathroom, it's still a list, and it's starting the day, right? Make your bed, and take some time to get those golden hours for lead generation, whatever those golden hours are for you. If you're a morning person and you're up, make those phone calls. If it's afternoon and that's your best time, whatever it is, just don't call me at 3 a.m, please, but whatever your best time is, right? Focus on that. There's tons of things you can do. It's about keeping your attention focused on the things that you do well. And I guess my best advice would be, if there is something on your list of things to do, especially in business, and there's one that you're just avoiding, do that one first.
Yeah.
It's probably the most important one, right?
Yeah.
So,
Phrase called eat the frog.
Eat the frog, yeah.
Yeah, that's funny, because the one, when we look at the things that we didn't like to do when business was normal, oftentimes we still don't like to do those things when business is abnormal, right?
Right.
And so guess what? We're still doing the difficult thing, the thing that we don't want to do.
Right.
But even on that topic, so I would love to hear even more input from the coaches on either what you've done or what you've seen your coaching clients do to either set up their environment to help them win, or even traps that you've seen people fall into. For example, I can see Oliver has his work environment set up to his comfort zone of having lots of stuffed animals. I'm kidding.
Makes you feel happy, right?
So,
I know, but can we talk about that for a second?
yeah.
We have an audience.
Oh, I mean, Oliver and the stuffed animals?
Was that just in case no one showed up to the call, Oliver?
Yeah. we always have an audience here. We
Yay.
listen to you. We're always listening.
Can we talk about some of that though, David, for a second? Like, oh my gosh, if I see one more person post on Facebook and say, what are you binge watching? I just finished everything binge watching.
Yeah.
I'm gonna scream. Like, your clients are seeing this. They don't want to know that you're not working and that you're home binging on Netflix.
Mhm.
That meme that's going around that says, like, if you end up wanting to be divorced after the lockdown is over, give me a call. I can sell it. That's tacky.
I can sell
Stop
you.
posting that crap, right?
I haven't seen that. Is that
That is
real?
so tacky.
Yeah, it's a meme on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh.
there's another one that says, like, you know, if you're expecting in 9 months now due to the coronavirus, call me. I can help you find a bigger house.
Wow.
Of America.
My favorite one is, so when you're showing a house, so can you see yourself being quarantined here for 3 months?
No.
I just went off on another one, but
That's my favorite one, you know. If a person could see themselves being quarantined there, then obviously that's the house for them, right?
Right. Speaking of quarantine, yeah. So I know that the work environment is crucial. And the first 3 days when everybody was quarantined, I was working from my normal office area where it's an open space. My fiance was getting driven crazy because she had to be super quiet and tiptoe around us because we're always on the phone and we need to have these conversations. So I realized very quickly that, one, I needed to minimize my space and close it off so that way we can have conversations with the people we need to, and we can protect the people that we live with. So if we need to lock ourselves in a room and make calls for 3 hours so that way we don't have to see our significant other for a little bit, it keeps that separation there, so that way we are working and we don't go stir crazy.
And they don't have to hear us. Because sometimes who we are at work and who we are at home are sometimes two different people, right?
Yeah.
Well, and I would say with regards to our social media too, I just had this happen this past weekend. I ended up picking up a buyer, and the reason is because he stalked me on social media, of which they're doing to all of us. So anytime you have a potential client, they're stalking you. So whatever the narrative that you're trying to portray or you wanted to communicate about the business professional you are, and if you're transitioning maybe from a non-professional sector into a professional sector, there does have to be a transition about how you communicate and what you're communicating, because they're stalking. So literally the reason I got a call Saturday morning was because they'd seen some of the hashtag slaughter fixer upper and the work that my wife and I are doing on, well, he wanted to talk to a realtor that understood what it is to have remodeled a home or live through a remodel, whatever it is. So it's really fascinating. So whatever that narrative it is, make sure you're presenting the one that you want, and go in to find somebody else's narrative because they're telling you where they're at. Like, so if you are saying if social media is a part of your lead generating activities, then do it on purpose. Really go through, be asking questions and finding out how people are. Do the curiosity, do the how are you questions, the concern, the care concern, but also dig into what's going on and make sure, because they may have 3 other friends that you're not friends with yet that are looking to sell their home that you could become friends. So be intentional with that time, because otherwise, you know, the next cat thing about, you know, living through the apocalypse is probably entertaining, but not necessarily helping you pay rent next month, right? Pay our bills. So we have to get ahead of that and get ahead of the narrative that on both sides.
Well, and Joe, I think that's really important, right? So, and I don't agree that necessarily it's the time for all of us to be out waving the right flag, saying that we're your favorite realtor, right? Start telling stories that they want to hear. Start telling the story of a local business, or how somebody remodeled and flipped their house, or how somebody saved $400 a month with their refi. Start telling everyone else's story, and you'll just naturally, organically tell yours and have people gravitate to you.
So good. It's good insight.
And remember too, if you have to run your social media post by someone to ask them, hey, does this sound too salesy? Then it does. So just consider that. It really is about thinking of what are people looking for of value right now, not how can I turn this into an opportunity to get business as a result of people being on social media all the time. So it's so we do have to really take a different approach even on our messaging in general, whether it's social media, whether it's how we're talking to people. Consider is perception. It's all about perception. If you take one side or the other through any of this, then it's going to be a perception from the other side as well. And so even be very, very careful about your messaging out there. If the restrictions for showings were lifted a little bit on Friday, and we're putting a social media post out say, hey, restrictions were lifted. Anyone wants to see a house this weekend, let me know. Then you're going to have half the people out there that are saying, hey, I just want to be extra safe, maybe taking that the wrong way. And so we want to be careful on our message and the perception it creates on either side, because right now, even how we respond through some of this that we're going through can be likened to a political discussion, right? Where you could alienate half of your people if the wrong message comes through, or if it can be perceived in a certain way. We just want to be really careful with that.
Well, and really for just new agents in general, pre-coronavirus, right? 3 months ago, real estate should only be 25% of your Facebook posts. No one wants to be vomited on by you of your open houses every time they turn around, right? They want to work with somebody who's relatable. They don't want just somebody who's just like, oh, I'm at an open house this Saturday. Oh, look, it's Monday. Now I'm at another open house. You're not relatable to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Value add.
Yeah. So circling a little bit back to topic that we were just on, and it had extended a bit. I think there's more that we can go on in terms of setting yourself up for success at home if you're working from home. And I know some of the coaches have talked about some things where they set themselves up. We've talked to our people who are in coaching to see to work them through setting themselves up. Some of you that are watching and listening to this right now might be thinking, how can I possibly work through all this? It's so distracting, whatever it might be. Do any of the coaches have things that they've seen or done, just as an extension of the conversation that Britt started, that you're seeing success with in terms of setting up a work environment and getting back to the original habits, even if you've seen someone or you yourself might have even stepped away temporarily?
So David, my family got hit by the COVID. My wife got it, and it spread through the other 5 people that live here. So it just kind of went, it went weird for a little while. And then you and I spoke this morning. The first 2 or 3 days of getting back on the phone, it was like I'm calling people just to connect with them. And then all of a sudden, last Wednesday of last week, I said, man, I got to make the shift back to real estate. And so I started calling, realizing that, hey, you got to talk to 10 people live, whether it's whether it's on the phone, whether it's obviously we're not door knocking, doing any of that stuff, but you got to talk to 10 people live every single day, 5 days a week. And for me, I had to make the adjustment mentally, get back into the game. And then I had to have accountability. So I called somebody, my guy Angel, and said, Angel, I need to make 50 calls a day. I know that generates me 10 to 15 live people, and boom, back on it. So it's just a matter of accountability. Bunker in, call for an hour, take a break, call for an hour, take a break. It's just the standard, Gary Killer 101. You got to talk to people every single day, 10 to 15 people every single day. And you have to have accountability, at least in my.
Yeah, I think the frequent breaks are kind of the key. When you do have so many distractions in your house, like, if you have kids and you're trying to homeschool them, if you have, family around and all that stuff happening, frequent breaks and just letting the distractions sort of just address them in small bites, that's been super helpful for me. I'll go at it for about an hour and then I'll stop, I'll check with the kids. What are they doing? But yeah, it's just breaking up your day into smaller bites somehow.
Yeah.
I love that. And one of the big things too with that is protecting that time. So the kids know when it's recess time, right? And they're used to being on a schedule. So for us as real estate agents, and we don't really have any bosses, we need to create a schedule for ourselves for the most important thing that we need to be doing on a daily basis, and that's lead generating. So how can we protect that when everybody's around at home? So start thinking about ways of saying, okay, well, if I need to be doing my 10 calls, what times can I be doing this on a daily basis, so I can start training my family that they know for the next hour from 10 to 11, I'm going to be in the room busy making phone calls. So that way you start creating a habit for yourself of making the calls in the area that you need to in order to protect it. And also the people that you live with, they understand, okay, at 11 o'clock every day, Dave makes calls. So let's go have recess at 11 o'clock. So protecting that time and protecting it so that way you can get that done is very important. Because I know for me, when I didn't have that protection time, you can walk through the house and start making those calls and you realize, oh my gosh, I need to vacuum, or, oh, I need to do some laundry, or, oh, let's make a snack.
Not to mention the kid is screaming, grabbing your leg. The dog starts
starts
barking. Everybody knows we're home, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So,
The solution is just live by yourself.
That's my solution.
Right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I know that, and I'm sure all you coaches do this too, is of course here at Keller Williams, we use the 135 and the 411. And all my coaching clients came into the new year with, big plans for the year. And I know a lot of them feel like, wow, it's really on hold right now. And it really isn't. And that's what I've been trying to drive home with everyone. It's not on hold. What it is physically what we're doing, how we do our job is changing, but we still do our job. And my job as a coach is to still hold them accountable to those goals. Because the reality is what works in this business is consistency, right? Time on task, be consistent, do it every day. So I have clients, for example, that have daytime jobs, but now they're home during the day. My advice to them is, if you're going to go back to that daytime job in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or whenever that goes, don't make your lead gen habit 9 to 11 in the morning. Make your lead gen habit 5 to 7 in the evening when you would normally be home. Because if you create a habit and then you go back to work, you're not going to have that habit anymore, right? So we want to help them build success in their schedule too, right? So that's a couple of things that I was thinking about. Just stay consistent, make that schedule, and definitely protect those golden hours and do that lead gen. 10 people a day is really not that hard.
Yeah, and if any of you tend to be rule followers, and we call those high C's on the disc, then it might be hard to feel like it's hard to adjust in terms of, oh well, I've got kids running around, I have dogs and cats jumping on the table and things like that. the boundaries in our business have changed, at least temporarily. And we were on a team meeting earlier for Kirkland, and someone's dog was like jumping on the desk. It's okay. It's okay. It's okay if you have one of your kids run up to you and ask a question while you're in the middle of a listing appointment online. That's just what happens. We do our best to set boundaries so we don't get interruptions. When those interruptions do occur, the people on the other end actually understand, we find out. And it is actually okay if you need to excuse yourself for 20 seconds to deal with the situation and then come right back. People understand. It's not, they're not saying, oh, well, that was highly unprofessional, right? It's
Right.
not that. So it's okay. And this is where the rules in general apply, in terms of you're not going to have any clients if you don't have any leads, and you won't have any leads if you're not talking to anybody. Those rules apply. How you get those does not necessarily always apply. You don't have to say, well, between 9 and 11, I'm doing this to support my household. Well, you change your lead generation time if necessary. You can do it later in the afternoon, but it really is about being purposeful. And I even spoke to someone yesterday that had gotten off track a little bit, and all it took for him to get on track was to fix his morning. Right? Because once he stopped going to the gym, that was that pillar that started his day, that actually launched everything else in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And it was interesting to see when that got taken out, everything else got soft, everything else fell out of place. So once he addressed that of, oh, well, what can I do in place of that for my health? Oh, I can go out for a run each day. And he went back and he started time blocking that back in to start his day right. And sometimes that's all it takes, is you're like, oh, something's different. And because I don't have this stabilizing factor in my schedule right now, everything else has gone by the wayside. Go back and reevaluate your schedule and ask if that one thing disappeared, and if there's a way to put something similar back in its place that would stabilize things again too.
So we have someone asking, what is a 135 and what's a 411?
Oh, okay.
Who would like to answer that? Or I could.
Go ahead.
So I'll answer that. So 411, a 411 is, and this is probably and I'm saying this first because it's probably the more commonly used tool, is 4 weeks, 1 month, 1 year. It's a one-page goal planning, activity planning tool and accountability tool. I believe, in my opinion, it's the greatest self-accountability tool that exists. So in a real quick nutshell, there are resources in KW, both just KW wide and in coaching, where to get more information on this. But essentially, you have your 1 year goals, you have your 1 month goals, the goals that must be accomplished to stay on track for your 1 year goals, and then you have week to week your weekly must do items in order to stay on track to meet your goal for this month. And it's done 1 week at a time. So you do this week, this is what has to happen this week in order to meet my goals for the month. And if I don't accomplish all this for this week, we don't erase anything. It gets added on to the next week. The reason I think this is such a great self-accountability tool is because if you get to the point where you're falling behind on your contacts and you're saying, well, I need to make 50 contacts a week, and you get to the point where like, okay, I again didn't make my contacts this week, so now I have 742 contacts I need to make this week. It's probably not going to happen. And so you're like, okay, well, if I'm going to reduce that back to a number I can get my hands around, now I have to go up and adjust my monthly goal and my yearly goal, because I just took some things off the table that were actually going to get me there by not making them up. So I believe the 411 is a really awesome self-accountability tool. If there's anything that I missed on that anyone else would like to chime in on, feel free.
Leanne has a great video on how to do a 411, which is on YouTube, and she just put a link for it in the chat box. If you coach with me, you've seen it before because I always send it out, but it's a great resource for how to do a 411.
Perfect. Yes, I see it in the chat box too. So,
and guys, sorry, David,
Go ahead.
the biggest deal for me, you guys, is I'm a pretty good self-starter, yet without accountability, I kind of suck. So it's like if I tell David, I've got, 50 phone calls to make, and I'm going to be checking in with you at 6 o'clock. Anybody listening, we're all the same creatures. If we have accountability that we have to check in with, I can do self-accountability all day. Yet if I know I tell David I got to do my 50 phone calls by 10, or by 5 tonight, guys, it's find accountability partner, somebody that's not going to let you slither out, because I'm the ultimate slitherer, but find somebody that won't let you slither out, and just check in with them in the morning, say, hey, I'm committed to 25 phone calls, and then I'm checking in with you at 5. And for me, I understand 411, 135, all that stuff. But if I know that Oliver's going to be talking to him at 5 tonight, I'll get my stuff done. So,
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. Well, and even as far as I talk about the 411 being a self-accountability tool, one thing I even started doing just to even keep myself on track as a coach is I bring my 411 to our group coaching sessions, and I'll put it on. I'll say, here's my 411 right here. Here's my week 5. Actually, so I even had to do my week 5 on the back there. So, but bottom line is that's my own accountability, right? And so Todd hit the nail on the head that it's all about having someone hold you accountable. The best people to hold me accountable are the people that I work with that look to me for guidance as well, right? Because I'm certainly not going to let them down. So that combined with additional accountability, other peer accountability, or any level of accountability is the way to make that rock solid too. We're at about 2 o'clock right now. I do want to answer the question of what a 135 is, so we might go about 5 minutes over if everyone's okay with that. So the 135 is also called a GPS. In fact, we're starting to even refer to it a little bit more. For years we called it the 135. The reason we're actually starting to transition back, to the name GPS, which is goals, priorities, strategies, is because the 1 and the 3 and the 5 can change. So basically what it is you have one goal, and you can have multiple 135s or GPSs. So you start with one goal, and let's say that's an income goal. Make X number, $250,000 in gross commission income. And you can even say with X number of listings, X number of buyer closings. So you have one bigger goal. And then you have the priorities to be focused on priority areas to focus on in order to hit that goal. So it might be 12 listings or 5 listings sales, X number of buyer sales. It can be education as a third thing, specifying what education that you think you need to focus on as well. And then you go one level deeper on each of those, from the priorities to the strategies. And so that's where we have 5 strategies for each one. So as far as, let's say you're going to, your priorities was 5 listing sales. Well, what strategies will you use to accomplish those 5 listing sales? Call expireds, call for sale by owners, door knock, whatever it might be. Those are the strategies. And you can take this as far as you want. It doesn't have to be 5 strategies. It can be 4, it can be 10. You can even go a level deeper on these strategies as well, which is why we're just calling it a GPS primarily now too. But when you hear 135 in GPS, it essentially means the same thing. Typically, when someone is doing the GPS, that will transition over to the 411 for their weekly must do. The items that are the most important for this week will typically come from the strategies on this GPS. So they'll typically be used hand in hand when you're using both of them. Mm-hmm. So any coaches see anywhere I missed on that?
No, great job.
Sometimes it's hard to do without a visual, charades or something like that, right? So, all right, awesome. So I hope we got all of the questions answered. I saw Jeanette answering some of them online and some others answering some of these. So I think we got most of the questions answered. Can any of the coaches think of anything that's a last minute thing that we need to make sure that people come away with on this?
I'd really like everybody to remember the most important thing is if you are feeling bad or sad or mad, it's okay, and reach out. Reach out to us coaches, reach out to your friends, reach out to other people. Because I've been hearing a lot on the news that when people are cooped up at home, they get sad and depressed. And I don't want any of our KW agents to be sad and depressed. You can call me anytime. And I'll probably only answer till 9 o'clock at night. But I've got an ear, and I'm a pretty sympathetic person, and I get it. I get what you're going through. I'm stuck in it too. So you don't have to go alone. Be sure you take time to exercise. Be sure you're eating right. Stay hydrated. I know I sound like a mom, but please take care of yourself. That's really the most important thing, so that when you come out of this and we're going back to work, keep your mind in a positive place. Focus on the good. Don't worry.
Awesome. And you know, everyone has gotten the opportunity to essentially meet or get to know, without officially meeting, in some cases, the coaches from all the offices here. So so if any of you are curious about the coaching program, want more information, want to know what the next step might be, if you're not in coaching, if that's a direction you were looking at getting some more information on, all of the coaches at all of the offices do have coaching information sessions available. And right now we're pretty much we're doing them through Zoom, and most of them are being done one-on-one now. So I would recommend reaching out to, depending on the office, if you have an agent services coordinator, the agent services coordinator can set you up with that meeting. Or whoever handles the onboarding, if you have an assistant team leader that does it, or if your team leader actually handles the onboarding, it's whoever handles the onboarding for new agents in your office, they can typically point you the right direction for that. And then we can, for whatever office you're in, you'll be set up with just a one-on-one info session with the coach. All right. Well, great. Well, thank you everybody for calling. We had a really good turnout, and I'm really excited about that, because I know some of the promo might have gotten lost in the Facebook feeds when everything was going crazy after some of the restrictions were lifted on Friday. So I'm glad to see how many people did show up, and feel free to reach out, for information. We're pretty easy to reach. Everybody knows how to reach us. So, but thanks everyone for coming.